On this special episode of Supercars Talk, I've got a green screen and I chat to a very special guest about their first car experiences. Okay, on this special episode of Supercars Talk, we have got a very special guest, Richard Spanners Ready from Missed Apex podcast, Doom Scrolling and local Cambridgeshire radio. Good morning or good evening to you.
It's a good evening, sir, and thank you for mentioning my BBC Radio Cambridgeshire show. I'm most proud of my gardening broadcasting, even though I know nothing about gardening at all. I was parachuted in some 16 months ago now to take over from the gardening host who needed to stay at home. He needed to shield. He's getting a little bit older, struggling to get into the studio. They said, can you just fill in for a few weeks? And that was 16 months ago. I still know nothing about gardening.
But you still got a job doing it, so...
Yeah, I keep turning up. Paychecks keep coming in.
Yeah. So on this one, we want to have a bit of a chat about your first car.
Sure. And
any cool stories you've got or anything. I'd imagine it was something very small and unexciting being in sunny England. It's not quite the same as what we get over here car-wise.
You talk to me about the difference between like car ownership. So in the UK, like certainly like in the 80s and 90s, you could go and pick up like a car from a scrap heap that was basically falling apart and just make the best of it as long as you passed like a certain mechanical test. Now, that's not the case for you.
It seems that we don't get the same kind of cheap cars, like they don't devalue the same. So, you know, you guys seem to go and pick up something for £100. Whereas our first cars, generally people are spending, $2,000 to kind of $5,000. More like $1,000 to £2,500.
So I will say to you that my tale, and I don't know how long we've got, so you just tell me to stop talking whenever you need me to.
As long as you want, really.
My tale is one of not so much rags to riches, but rags to slightly cleaner rags. But I did start off very much kind of, under the poverty line, just no money, working class, no real kind of guide on how to do basic things like live in a house, wash things, and buy a car that will run. So my early car career was absolutely woeful. So there's two cars that fit that first car bracket because, first car I used for work was just basically robbing my dad's keys. And that was the glorious Austin Montego. And it was just a proper shed of a car, it had like a weirdly big engine, but somehow failed to deliver any of that to the road. And it just kind of potted around. It used all the petrol immediately. So when you're literally scraping for like, I've got £2.30, can I get to the factory and back? It's like nearly, and I remember with that car, it guzzled so much fuel. It really did. It rivaled my hourly rate, like the warehouse. So I'm coming back from the warehouse, and I remember getting mocked by the petrol pump person. And I went in there, and I'm literally like, I've got like £2.37. I filled up £2.37, and she was relentless. Like she just properly called me out, called me every like cheapskate name under the sun. I'm like, this is literally all the money I have, and I need to get home. And then I would often have to revert to bicycle, but I think when people talk about first cars, it's what's the first car did you buy with your own money? And are you ready for this? Because this is glorious. I spent about £230. I was a floor fitter, you see.
Yep.
That's before the glory days of being a low-level media person. £230 in 1997 for a Ford Escort Ghia. And this is like, when you talk about getting a car cheap, it's not actually a good thing. I think being able to buy those cars cheap is a tax on being poor. So being poor is expensive. And you go, oh, the guy that I was floor fitting for, he was like, look, I can give you a lot more work if you can just buy a car. And he recommended this car. Oh, I think it was his friend selling it or something. 230 quid. Okay, I guess I can afford that. A few less sandwiches this week, but I can afford it. And then you pick this thing up and you go, okay, great. Well, I've never owned a car before. Let's get it on the road. All right, it's got a bit of an MOT. That's fine. I can do that. Phone up the insurance company. Okay, that will be £2,500 for the year. Wait, what? Yeah, £2,500 for the year. I'm like, how can that be? And my dad's gone mad at me because I've wasted all of that £230 on this Ford Gear. And it's because of the Gear badge. So Ford's Gear badge was like a performance car. Sir, this was not a performance car. This was, it was so horrendous. It was so low powered. It was falling to bits. It was a million years old. It was quote unquote gold colored, but it really was more like mammalian puke colored. And so like my daddy goes nuts at me, but it's the car I've bought. I don't have any more money. So you say to the insurance company, don't you? Like, okay, you pay the deposit. And within like 2 or 3 months, I could no longer afford the insurance. At least it wasn't as thirsty as the Austin Montego, but everything starts falling apart. A blessing and a curse, because that's where I learned how to change a radiator, because it just randomly exploded. I had no real idea about like tires. I'm like, what do you do with tires? So I'm going down the road. It feels a bit funny, but I don't know. And someone's like yelling at me in the street. It's like, oh yeah, the tires are like bald. And like, I didn't know tires were made of metal. And there was like metal on the inside. It had rubbed down that low. So I learned a lot of lessons. So that was like my car college education fund. £230 taught me how to put together rubbish cars.
Oh, that's a great start. And the difference we have, it seems that the insurance is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, had I picked a more sensible car, that didn't have that sports performance badge, then maybe, yeah. So that was a harsh lesson to learn. And then future cars, I really did just go for the smallest thing I possibly could.
Yeah, because you get a lot more insurance on the size of the engine and that, don't you?
I think, I don't know. I've never lived in Australia, but certainly like the age was a big sting. Being male is a big thing as well. No, honestly, yeah.
It's similar here. We have as soon as you kind of male over 30, the insurance was no one cared what you had.
Being a grown up is just brilliant, isn't it? Yeah.
with things like that, but then you end up buying sensible cars.
Well, okay, so I have got sensible cars now.
Yeah.
So I am driving like a compact SUV because I've got to ferry the little ones around. And my previous car before that was a Citroen Picasso 7-seater people carrier. So, I've like full on soccer dad. I've only twice gone into something a little bit silly for the sake of it. And I've regretted it both times. So as a 24-year-old, 22, I got a Vauxhall Astra, but the SRI models. So the sports injection, 2 litre, a little bit of grunt. Like it's not going to do very well on the track, but it was loud as hell. The exhaust is falling apart, and at least you could go vroom but this, oh my god, it was that red. The old red where when it's been out in for the sun in a bit, it kind of goes like a really pale, rubbishy red. And I spent ages trying to like tea cut it or like wax it and try and bring it up to like a proper color, and then I just gave up in the end. But I think I can save myself a little tiny bit, because I did one time have an Alfa Romeo. It was only the little one. It was only the T-Spark. Yep. But my goodness, those things. When people say you should own an Alfa Romeo, I mean, Italian engineering is passionate. It is focused. They want to do one thing right. But to drive, it felt like a giant go-kart. And I just wanted to drive it a million miles an hour through every corner, because it gripped, because it danced through the corner. It said, "I'm okay." It screamed with hand gestures. There's video on this, right? The car in the cockpit would say to you, "I am okay. Come on, we done more. We done more. I have this. I have grip. We okay?" And then you go, "Oh, it's just beautiful, lovely." You get to your destination. There's no oil in the engine anymore. The electric windows don't work. And it was just a nightmare from start to finish. And then the little kiddies came along, and I think that is when I traded it in for my Citroen Picasso.
Oh, it's a sad story when you get to that point, isn't
It's a sad tale, isn't it? Kids are terrible.
That's why you just import a mature age one like I did.
Oh, nice. Yeah, ready-made family. Yeah.
That's
I tell you what. Next one, I'll go that route. I'll not start again.
No, I wouldn't recommend that one. So I think that covers most of the questions I kind of set out. You kind of did the interview for me. So
Oh, sorry. You pressed record and then I just went off on one. It's a good job I'm a talker. I'm in the wrong trade if I wasn't.
Definitely, yes. And yeah, it's nice to actually have someone else to talk to on a video, because most of the ones I do by myself.
Oh, you just chat to yourself into the ether.
Yes, yeah. So I actually was someone in a shed just chatting to themselves.
Yes, I'm always slightly scared that the studio shed I've made for myself doesn't in fact have a super editing computer, a streaming setup, acoustically treated, soundproofed walls. It is just like a rusty old shed I've just convinced myself is an actual streaming studio. And like people occasionally pop in and I'm rocking backwards and forwards, pretending to talk to an audience of Formula One fans. That is my deepest fear.
No, well, yeah, the fans are definitely out there, and yeah. We very much enjoy what you do.
Oh, good. Well, thank you very much.
So, yeah. Thank you very much for coming on my little show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
A big thank you there to Richard Spanners Ready. If you enjoyed his waffling on, I did have a list of questions that I was going to ask him, but with his short amount of time available, I didn't want to hold him up, and really covered most of the questions in his chat. But if you enjoyed that waffling from him, you can catch him and some of his friends on Missed Apex podcast. They have that on your podcatcher of choice, and on YouTube. They actually do a live stream Australia time. It's around 6 o'clock on Monday mornings. He's also just started up a new podcast, Doom Scrolling, where they are supposed to talk about kind of social media stuff. And yeah, if you are in England, BBC Radio Cambridgeshire for all your gardening tips. So hopefully this is the first of many of these chats, especially while we haven't got much racing content to chat about. So until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.